Hey, Ray here, back at it again with an Edison spotlight. Today we're going to be covering what is quite possibly my favourite deck of the format, because it's probably the deck that least resembles a deck of this format, and that is Little Village. Little Village is a very unconventional control deck. The entire deck, as the name might suggest, revolves around the field spell Secret Village of the Spellcasters. This card reads, if only you control a spellcaster monster, your opponent cannot activate spell cards. If you control no spellcaster monsters, you cannot activate spell cards. This is essentially spellcaster control, which is very interesting. Every monster we play is a spellcaster, and we back them up with Solidarity, which greatly increases their attack. And we aim to go 1-for-1 with our opponent's threats with cards like Smashing Ground and Deep Prison. We play every stun card we physically can. We do not special summon, so we run 2 Royal Oppression. We don't always care about our own effects, so we run 2 Skill Drain. And the idea is to essentially just shut down whatever it is our opponent is trying to do. This is what some people might call an unfun deck, or a deck that takes very little skill. I personally believe that this deck is exceptionally fun, as long as you're not the one playing against it. Now, let's go over the card by card. Breaker the Magical Warrior. He is a 900 attack monster at best, and a 1600 at worst. Normal summoning him, and then popping a back row, always feels good. There's a reason this card was limited for a very long time. It's just really good for tempo boost. You can beat over most monsters that people are setting, apart from Gravekeeper's Spy, and you can pop whatever people set turn 1, and then when you activate Secret Village, your opponent just doesn't get to do anything. Most decks at this period are running about 13 to 15 spell cards. So just by activating Secret Village, as long as you can keep at least 1 spellcaster on the field, your opponent just doesn't get to play a third of their deck. I don't think I need to explain why that's extremely powerful. Now, this is the one card in our deck that's a bit hindered by Skill Drain, but, you know, we gotta take our compromises somewhere. His payoff of just being able to essentially remove back row for free is so powerful that it's worth the trade-off. Crusader of Endymion is a spellcaster that is 900 attack. That is the only reason we play it. Dark Elf is a card that hasn't seen play since about 2003. We play it because it is the highest attack normal summonable spell count, caster, and has a pretty steep downside of requiring 1,000 life points to attack with. But if we have Solidarity, our opponent cannot attack over this unless they have something with more than 2,800 attack. So it's a legitimate threat. I have closed out games by being aggressive with Dark Elf. This deck's all about just being generally controlling and aggressive when you can. Because once you activate Solidarity, all of these become 2,000 plus beat sticks, so you can legitimately get in. Now, if we need to stall, we always have Gravekeeper's Spy, because people forget this, but yes, a lot of Gravekeepers are spellcasters. So, if you are unlucky enough to somehow not open up either Secret Village or alternatively Terraforming, you can stall with Spy for a bit, special summon another Spy, potentially special summon a Descendant if they've presented a threat, and then make your plays appropriately from there. Kaiku, although he isn't as high attack as our other spellcasters, his ability to stop your opponents from banishing from the grave, it really hoses decks like Vayu Turbo. They absolutely need to banish. So by stopping them from doing that, on top of all of the other interruption you're putting in by playing Secret Village and potentially buffing up your monsters anyway, you can really put some decks in some very difficult to out positions. Now, we do run a lot of back row removal ourselves. Giant Trunade is very nice because we don't want to pop our own Secret Village, but sometimes we want to get rid of their back row to make a game-ending push. So we do need that True Nade to temporarily bounce our Secret Village back, just so we can immediately play it again. Heavy Storm is something we tend to use going like a straight first turn, assuming we're going second. MST is nice because it means we don't have to pop our own Secret Village to get rid of their back row, but usually most players will just set everything in terms of spells because they'll just give up, realizing, well, they're not outing the Secret Village. Smashing Ground is nice because if we don't draw Solidarity and they summon a big monster, we can essentially just say no. Solidarity is extremely important to the game plan. It buffs all of our spellcasters from 1800 and 1900 beat sticks to legitimate threats. Terraforming fetches us the whole point of the deck, Secret Village. Bottomless stops them playing their threats. Deprison stops them playing their threats by banishing them if they somehow manage to get an attack through. Mirror Force, similarly. If they manage to get an attack through, we won't let them. Royal Oppression is an unfair card that should not be allowed in this format, in my genuine opinion, which is exactly why we play 2 of it, because we milk it for all it's worth. And even playing aggressively, there are times when you resolve this to negate a Battle Fader and make a big push. Skill Drain shuts down 2/3 of the decks in this format at the very least. So it's very nice to have. Starlight Road is there just in case, they somehow, if they have a spellcaster, or if their decks have spellcasters, they might be able to resolve a Heavy Storm. We do not want that. So, we gotta play the Starlight Road. We also do not want to play into Torrential at all in this deck, because we need to keep a spellcaster on the field to keep the lock going. And we run one Torrential Tribute of our own, because if they do manage to out our board, we want to be able to do the same back to them. Now, this deck gets even more powerful in the side deck, because then we can tailor what specific type of pain we want to inflict on our opponent. Now, Shadow Imprisoning Mirror, good luck playing a deck like Black Wings if you can't activate any of your effects. Now, of course, a lot of our monsters are dark, but to be honest, the benefits massively outweigh the downsides. So it's worth running Shadow Imprisoning Mirror. Light Imprisoning Mirror works. We run... I mean, the only light we have is Crusader of Endymion, which we use as a vanilla anyway, so this doesn't affect us. We could arguably main deck this, but I don't feel like it has enough effect to warrant that. We don't Tribute Summon, but we do hate Tribute Summons, so Mask of Restrict at 3 works fine for us. Since all of our monsters are the same type, we can comfortably run 3 Rivalry of Warlords for any deck that plays a variety of different types, which is nice. We don't do great against other decks that also play really degenerate strategies, so we play 2 Death Wombat in the side if they're playing Chainburn, which, yeah, you might argue, oh, well, doesn't Secret Village lock them out the game? They can draw into a lot of traps. We don't do great against traps sometimes, because we can't run cards like Royal Decree, because we need our traps. So it's kind of a weird situation. We run the 3rd Smashing Ground if we're up against a deck that can actually play scary normal summons. This is things like other stun decks, actually. Like Aeneas Alias is kind of annoying for us to out if we don't have Solidarity already established. Which does take a little bit of setup because we do need a spellcaster in the grave for that to be the case. So yeah, that's a little bit annoying. And that's it for the deck profile. I'm going to be real, I'm going to show you test hands, but there's going to be very little for me to show you because this isn't a combo deck. This is hard control, hard stun. You play your cards and you stop your opponent from playing anything. But let's do the test hands anyway. Alright, time for the test hands. Let's draw for turn. Stun by main. Normal Summon Breaker, put a counter on it. Set TT. If we get it in the grave, we can set up a Solidarity and we can start playing aggressively. And with our skill drain, we could really start hosing our opponent. Now, I wouldn't want to commit to the skill drain straight away, because I do want to draw into a Secret Village first. I'm really surprised I haven't drawn into one. How deep would I have to dig? Wow, okay, I just got unlucky that game. statistically, you should draw in your opening hand because we're essentially playing 5 copies of it. So, you know, it's more surprising if we don't see it. I say that as we proceed to not draw it for the second time. It's alright, honestly, sitting on a big monster with Solidarity often is enough to slow a lot of deck down, and we do have Royal Oppression here, so again, if we're up against something like Black Wings or Quick Draw Synchron, we do get to hose them here regardless. Just playing a lot of generic cards that out meta strategies means that even if we don't always draw like the nuts, we still have a play. Like here, there you go, this is great. Like, you just overcommit here because you have the Starlight Road. What are they gonna do? I would say there is no thought twist, but no, there is actually a surprising amount of thought. Oh, haha, lol, monkey control deck, jokes aside. I mean, except for when you draw a handful of nothing but monsters, then it's kind of obvious what the play is. Part of me thinks I should run the third terraforming, but I don't know exactly what I'd cut. There's a lot of ways to build a deck like this, and it honestly depends on what you expect to come up against. If you're playing this in a competitive environment, because you can attempt to make decks like this competitive. Stun decks always see some level of competitive success just by nature, because if you are running a deck that is specifically designed to counter the strategies that people are going to be playing, at some point it's gonna work. That's just how this works. There's always going to be a control strategy in the meta, regardless of the time period. That's Yu-Gi-Oh! The trinity of decks that will always exist are combo decks, stun decks, and mid-range, you know? And usually something that is aggro. But yeah, even with the weirder hands, we can usually find a way to stall until we draw something that's of use. This deck is pretty versatile in that way. We don't really, again, there's not many other ways to say, hey, this is a control deck. We're making control plays, you know? Ultimately, everything I'm going to be saying is variations of that. So, with that, hope you guys have a nice format and have an even better day.